Welcome back to On Deck Circle Podcast, brought to you by the Fantasy Six Pack. I am your grieving host, Nick Z, over here with my Callaway hat wearing friend Jason. Jason, before we even get started with anything, I would like to wish you a happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
How did you celebrate? This is not the cold open question of the week. This is just me making small talk.
Yeah, it was a very eventful day yesterday. Went fishing, went lunch at a brewery, watched the golf, the U.S. Open, and rounded out the night with my son's movie pick of the night, which was Star Wars Rogue One.
Are you a Star Wars family?
Yes, somewhat. Not a huge, like I always grew up watching and I really like Star Wars, but I'm not like one of those like nerds like Episode 5. You know,
Yeah.
Like I'll watch.
I've never seen a second of any Star Wars movie.
I think it's a generational thing. Although my son is into it and he's only 11.
Well, that's because you're into it. So you showed him, like,
yeah. Honestly, his friends showed him a lot more than I have.
Yeah. I'll show my kids
and you know, Disney Plus helps with that too. Like, you know,
Disney Plus,
readily available.
And like the Mandalorian helps because like Baby Yoda was a big thing.
Exactly.
But okay, let's just cut to the chase. Cold open question of the week, Mr. Jason.
Yep.
I'm not gonna say what you think I'm gonna say. What I am going to say is, I'm just kidding. I'm totally gonna say it. Name a trade that you will always remember where you were, what you were doing, and all of that. That involves one of your core heart teams. All right?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go. All right, Jason. So
this
what do we got?
So easy, and there was many to think about. And I'm gonna go off topic real quick, or not off topic, but we'll say non-baseball.
Yeah.
Was the Jay Cutler trade. Super groundbreaking for Chicago at the time. It still would be because we have no quarterback. I never had. But if I think about baseball related, obviously to do with the Cubs, two come to mind. Both kind of in that same era, one before the other. And my favorite trade they've ever done was the Alfonso Soriano deal. Still to this day, one of my all-time favorite Cubs players, Alfonso Soriano. And at the time, I want to say it was a year after his 40-40 season. So at the time, it was like, this is amazing. We're actually trading for one of the top players in baseball. So that was one of my favorite trades because he's also one of my all-time favorite Cubs. However, not to be forgotten, it's also kind of correlates us together, and that's the Nomar Garcia-Parra trade. Because at the time, you know, Nomar was on the decline, but he still had that super high name value.
Yeah, and it was Nomar.
Yeah, and I want to say at the time I was probably, I can't remember, it was probably like in my teenage years, so I was just starting to kind of actually follow baseball on a daily basis and get into like the, you know, when you're a kid, you're like, oh, who are the Cubs playing? Oh, whatever. But when you start actually following it and get into some of the thicker weeds of the stuff, it was like Nomar was one of those big first-time trades that I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah. I think I was in 6th grade or 5th grade, so that would check with your timeline there.
Yeah.
Did you watch, I think it was the Netflix The Comeback?
I have not. I've heard good things about it.
So quick side story about that. Just because, again, like you, I wasn't like, I was watching ESPN, but I wasn't like really like in on it.
Yeah.
And I guess during the A-Rod saga, Kevin Millar was on like Baseball Tonight because they thought the deal was done. And they were like, who would you rather have, Nomar or A-Rod? And Kevin Millar was just like, I'm taking A-Rod every time. And then the trade, of course, does not go through, which kind of also is kind of a segue to where I'm going here. So we stop burying the lead. Nomar then gets pissed because they tried to replace him. And he was just kind of a malcontent for the next few months until they traded him. And that brings us to today, Jason. You know what? Hold on one second.
Okay. 2004, for all of us out there wondering when that Nomar trade was. 2004, I was out of high school at that time, but I was still a teenager, briefly. But at the time, I was like, this is one of those trades that will stick in my head forever because, like I said, at the time, Nomar was very much I know he was on the decline, but he was also like one of the faces of baseball. Are we putting on our mourning here? Our mourning jersey of Devers?
Go backwards so the number can show.
Well, you just segued us right into the first topic.
Yep.
With that wardrobe change, you segued us into our first topic, and it would be crazy to not talk about Devers.
We're talking Devers here, and I'm sorry for anybody that's watching this because I'm gonna probably rant and babble and complain for the next 45 minutes.
It's a therapy session, if you will.
Yeah,
an outlet for any Boston fans.
I'm just bummed. So to paint a picture, get home from Father's Day at my in-laws' house. My wife and I go out back. We're doing some gardening. I get a text from my co-host over here that just says Devers bye-bye or bye-bye Devers. And in my head, I was like, oh, he's on the DL. Something happened. Then the texts come in. They come in and they come in and they come in and I say, oh my God. And then you're always like, okay. So there's like a 10-second pause between any trade where you're like, okay, he's gone. Who did we get? And then you see names come up. Kyle Harrison and Jordan Hicks and more.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that more better be like Bryce Eldridge, like the first base prospect, which would be helpful for the Red Sox for like the relative short term. But then the more is just a player that was picked after the Red Sox draft, the pick right after. So they legitimately had a choice between Tibbs and Brandon Montgomery, and they picked Montgomery, which is fine.
Yep.
Whatever. Then we get just a lottery ticket relief pitcher arm in like the Dominican Summer League. And I'm just sitting here thinking, this is the best hitter I've seen since like David Ortiz. Like, but he's like such a good hitter. He was so good. And I'm just so bummed because it was just one of those things where you're like, he gets, and like all my friends and all the media right now, they're saying like, oh, he was being a malcontent. He was doing this. He was doing that. The guy just wants to hit baseballs. Let him hit baseball. And he did it in an amazing way. And I'm bummed that I'm not going to be able to see this happen. And again, if they got something, anything, Jordan Hicks is on the DL. They optioned Kyle Harrison to AAA.
Yep.
So like right now you're missing 30 home runs in your lineup and you don't have a pit. Like not one of these guys. Like Hicks will probably go to the bullpen, which is great. We need as much bullpen. Everyone needs bullpen. Unfortunately, his ERA is a fucking 6, and his expected stats aren't that much better.
Yeah.
So I'm just bummed, and I'm just trying to rationalize, and I just can't So like today I did all of my like podcast listening, like the Red Sox podcast I listen to. And I'm speechless, but I got a lot to complain about. And I'm just really trying to figure out what the plan is because friend of the show, Mr. Jeff Ponce, who was on maybe last year or 2 years ago, came out today and said they had another offer, but it got vetoed by ownership because they were going to eat money. The main purpose of this was to get out of the Rafael Devers contract.
Right.
And I hate it because all of these people that we're friends with within this like industry and sphere, a lot of them are very well off in this space. And I almost feel like they lost the fan. Like all these guys, they're like, oh, they saved money. I don't give a fuck about money. I don't.
Yeah.
It means nothing to me. I don't care that a millionaire, close to billionaire, is saving some money.
Yeah.
And am I going to watch them still? Yes. Am I going to listen to them on the radio still? Yes. Am I still going to care? Unfortunately, yes. But now, unfortunately for you, Jason, we're getting Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, I'm not going to dispute that because I've seen plenty of writings on the wall. But aside from Tucker, this is crazy to me. I don't know if maybe your pulse is on the thumb, your thumb's on the pulse more. But do you think that him complaining about them bringing in Bregman and then giving Bregman the third base job and him kind of huffing and puffing about it led to this deal? Or were they already going to think about getting out from underneath this contract? That was one of the things that I thought about when I saw the deal go through. Are they like, oh, you want to complain? Here, go complain to somebody other team. Which is kind of funny because they also
Matt
traded
Chapman.
him. Yeah. They have Matt Chapman locked up with a Gold Glove defender in San Francisco, but who is hurt right now. And maybe the Giants know more than they're leading on, and maybe Chapman is hurt for long term. I don't know the extent of Matt Chapman's injury, but that was one of my things I thought about. Another thing I thought about, which obviously instantly brought up when you trade away a generational talent like Devers, is the Boston Red Sox have a knack for it. And so I looked it up and I saw some transactions that have gone down. Now, these three players, Devers, Betts, and Sale. Don't get me wrong. Sale is not a generational talent, but they did trade him away. Here's what the Boston Red Sox have gotten back for those three players: Jordan Hicks, Kyle Harrison, James Tibbs, Jose Bilo, Jeter Downs, Alex Verdugo, Connor Wong, Vaughn Grisham, for two generational players and now a perennial all-star in Chris Sale. Whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, the Sale one I don't care about.
Yeah, that one it's not that. I mean,
just because he was hurt all the time, it was just a bad, and they won the World Series, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Even the Betts one, Jason, this is 10 times worse. He was under contract. We had him for 10 more years.
Yeah.
And it's just so dumb that people, and I think Passan was applauding them, being like, it's crazy that they got under that awful contract. Vlad Guerrero, who is great, fine. He is not a better hitter than Rafael Devers. And he just signed a $500 million contract.
Yeah. I would argue that Devers' contract was team friendly.
300
in this market at this rate that we have seen. Yeah. The market that's been out there right now, Devers' contract was team friendly. For the quality that you got back on your ROI on that contract.
Who's going to want to come here? You signed someone and instantly traded him. I guess there's a no trade clause you could do. But also a lot of the walk of shame reporting today is kind of not great for Devers. Ortiz is going against him.
Yeah.
He was like, I offered to help him as much as I could. He barely spoke to me. And there's been a lot reported, a lot of which Not a great look for Devers. But like you said, I think they wanted to get out of the contract. And I think they were like, oh, this is a great time to do it because it's happened. Like all this shit just happened.
Mhm.
Like you read June Lee, I believe. He used to write
I
for
don't think
ESPN.
so.
He writes for Yahoo now. He was saying Devers was mad at Christian Campbell for taking grounders at first base because he thought that he was like kissing ass. No,
Oh,
he was trying to help the team so he could play.
yeah.
Just
Yeah, that's
like
why
that's
that's why
the
I think
stuff that
some of this was done because of the way he handled the
yes.
Bregman signing.
I think it's kind of everything, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
But
saying that kind of lent its hand to that.
it's
But
just
if you
so
look at
bad.
it, like we talk about such a good hitter, I looked it up. I mean, granted, these are fantasy rankings, but they kind of go hand in hand. He's currently the 17th hitter in all of fantasy baseball. He's the third best third baseman when it comes to hitting, and 82nd overall amongst all players. Again, fantasy doesn't correlate quite to real baseball,
Yeah.
but when you're DH and you get you're quantified by your hitting, those are pretty good standards. And he's actually quote unquote having I'd argue a down year with a 401 OBP and a 504
If he
slugging.
didn't have that awful first 3 weeks, he'd be
Yeah,
batting like 320.
exactly. So I
It's
mean,
just so crazy. And all right, you know what? I'm just gonna read this to you.
okay.
This is tonight's lineup. Jaron Duran, fine. Major
Yep.
league player. Abraham Toro is your two hitter. Quad A player, I'd say. Roman Anthony, who we will talk about soon. Carlos Narvaez. Didn't know who he was last year. Could be one of my favorite players on this team currently, though. So, like, that's fine. But he's not a cleanup hitter. Marcelo Mayer, again, fine. Trevor Story, get off my team. Don't care
Yeah.
that he's been good recently. Get out. David Hamilton, fast. Not a hitter. Sinai Rafaela, fine. Your new DH, Christian Campbell. And Lucas Giolito on the hill. But again, it's just like what sucks is they're probably going to win tonight. They'll probably sweep the Mariners. And then everyone will be like, oh, addition by subtraction. No. And then Devers is going to hit 4 homers against them over the weekend. Just I also read today, I don't know if this is like a real thing or not, but like having Anthony, Mayer, and Campbell up and seeing a veteran act this way is probably not great for their development. So I do get that, but I'm still bummed. And I know that I'll get off my soapbox. It's been about 12 minutes ish. I am
I mean,
going to
you have every
try
right to be
and
mad.
return my Rafael Devers jersey that I bought 3 years ago. I don't think that's going to work.
Maybe maybe Tucker will come and take number 11, and then
Yeah.
you can just repurpose it.
Who? I don't want anybody. It'd be sick if Roman Anthony took it. That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, that I don't blame you for being mad. Again, it was out of nowhere, out of the blue. Another generational talent traded away from the Boston Red Sox. What are you gonna do? Well, we have another trade to talk about, not quite as powerful or hot stovey, but Andrew Vaughn was traded from the White Sox to the Brewers, and Andrew Civale went back to the White Sox. Only reason I bring this up is because obviously in deep, like you and I, we play in deeper dynasty leagues, and I'm sure Vaughn is probably rostered in at least 60% of those leagues. But to me, the more intriguing person is Civale going to the White Sox, only for the sense that we've seen Civale kind of excel in some of these teams like Cleveland White Sox have a very good knack of developing pitchers. We've seen that throughout their time over the last 20 years or so of developing pitchers. So I'm kind of curious to see and they have the rotation spots. They have really, look what they've done to Shane Smith so far this year, who was a real Rule 5 pick from Milwaukee. Looks like he would be an ace or an SP2 on most other teams. Right now is basically the White Sox ace, and he's been awesome. So I'm intrigued to see what the White Sox can get out of Civale. We've seen him kind of have that like SP3, SP4 return in the past when he was at Cleveland. Kind of flailed a little bit over the last couple seasons, but we've seen him kind of excel sometimes and be that SP3 or SP4, which is very, very needed in like deep dynasty or like 15-team redraft leagues. You're going to need those innings eaters, and now he's on a team that won't get you a lot of wins, but he could get you some quality starts and maybe some quality appearances. Definitely thought it was worth putting on the radar and seeing what the White Sox can get out of Civale. I don't know what Vaughn brings to the Brewers. They already have Rhys Hoskins, who is basically Vaughn's power.
He's getting traded soon.
You think?
I think he's getting traded to the Red Sox. No, but in general, I feel like Hoskins is definitely going to be on the move. Have you ever seen a more brewer than Andrew Vaughn?
I know.
He just fits like the Hoskins like aesthetic to a T.
Yeah, they had Rowdy Tellez before him, and then who's the big Dan Vogelbach? Like they love those big masher first basemen. Like I said, Vaughn is literally Rhys Hoskins with a little bit more. With Hoskins has more power. Otherwise, they're almost the exact same player. Get on base at a high rate, can slap hit. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to get out. Like I said, that's actually a good point you bring up. I could see Hoskins on the move. Vaughn is under control for longer, team control longer, and cheaper. So they probably saw the opportunity to grab Vaughn and it's basically swap out Vaughn for Hoskins at a cheaper rate for almost the same player.
I think I saw that. I don't know if this was like, I see so many fake tweets now. Civale's probably just going to get moved again.
Yeah, I heard that too. I can see that happening too. I can see the White Sox putting on their little bit of pitching magic, get them to churn out like 2 good months, like 10 good starts, and then they just flip at the deadline for another prospect or something. Which, real quickly, on a side note, all the Boston Red Sox players that have come over from Boston to Chicago have all somewhat panned out so far. It's early still, but
they really have. Teal's up. Oh, is Teal on the rundown?
No, he's not. But we can talk about it right now.
Well, let's just do a quick Teal talk. He's been awesome, and he's been fun to watch. He'll be someone that I'm kind of just gonna like monitor. The Red, like Chase my Droth. I'm fine like without it. Like Teal is someone that I would like to really see how he does, and target him in fantasy, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, Mydroth has been really good. The only problem is right now, I believe, depending on your league, he's only eligible like at shortstop. He's been playing shortstop for the White Sox, and you're not going to put him in at your shortstop. I mean, you might be able to put him in your middle infielder, but you're not playing him at shortstop. He's just not good enough to play that as far as fantasy baseball terms. You probably most certainly have a better shortstop on your roster than Chase Mydroth, but he's been really good. I had him in a couple of leagues, dropped him early because he was kind of fluttering, and now he's been come on very solid and gets on base at a high rate, got a little bit of pop in that bat. That was a side note, though. Some more Boston bad news. The prospects they traded away. Although I will say, Crochet has been awesome. Was it Saturday or yesterday when he faced that start against the Yankees, and they should have pulled him, and he gave up the home run to Judge. Brutal. But anyways, he dominated the Yankees that game. So as good as Mydroth and Teal have looked, Crochet has been stellar, and they've locked him up. So, but yes, Civale could be traded as well. Someone to keep an eye on. I don't know where he'll go, but I'd like to see what the White Sox do with him. That's going to do it for the trade talk here. Before we get into some of those other topics real quick, we're going to go ahead and talk about the Fantasy Six Pack All Access Pro member. You can get access to a lot of rankings. I know we're rolling out a lot of football content coming up here soon. We got also our baseball rankings, our rest of season rankings, prospect rankings, dynasty rankings. We have a Discord where you can join and get great customization, customizable questions, specific to your league, and drop those questions in. You get answered pretty much almost within, I wouldn't say immediately, but within a couple hours, you'll get an answer to some of those questions. I've seen you in there recently dropping some knowledge on some of these questions. It's always a good time to talk about, not just with other members, but also F6P members and writers.
I even asked a question the other day.
Yeah, I ask questions in all the time. If I want to, getting a little wishy-washy on a trade or something, get some other feedback. You can do all of that by becoming a member today. That's at fansixpack.net/plans. Highly advised to do that. It's a great time. I've seen people come in, ask questions all day. They come back and say, I was able to get in third place in my Roto League. I've never finished higher than like 5th or 6th. And thanks to us. So definitely get in there and become a member today. fansixpack.net/plans. Before we get into some of the more prospect talk, another big major topic on the brain today. Shohei Ohtani gets back on the mound. First time pitching in big since 2023. I was informed today that he was only pitching in 1 or 2 innings, easing him back in, basically using him as an opener, which is kind of shocking. I know they want to take it easy, but why even pitch him? That was my thought.
Yeah, it was kind of random. I feel like I just heard he did a bullpen the other day.
And now they're like, we're going to use him as an opener.
Yeah, seems weird. I'm surprised they didn't just do it last night for Sunday Night Baseball.
Yeah. What's the point of pitching it one more day?
Yeah. So we'll see. But
yeah, that's exciting. I don't really know if this does much for fantasy-wise, because until he gets worked back up, maybe like August or September, but knowing the Dodgers, they probably will never give him a heavy workload as a pitcher, and they're never going to leave him. His bat is too good to take out of the DH role. Even on the days that he pitches, I've had Ohtani in daily and weekly leagues. You'd never take him out of your DH spot as for a pitcher. Like, you just won't. His bat's too good to maybe get like 5 innings, 7 Ks, and a win. Like, I'd much rather have the 2 for 3 with a home run, a double, and 4 RBIs versus that pitching line. So I don't know if it changes his dynasty or fantasy value much of him going back on the mound. It's just fun from a baseball standpoint of seeing the two-way player that we love and know, Shohei Ohtani, getting back on the mound.
Yeah, I'm excited just because it's Ohtani pitching. And hopefully he can just stay healthy. I don't know what they should just use him as a closer, honestly. I mean, I understand they have enough, but like just pitches every day, hits every day. I found out today that you can be a DH and a pitcher.
Yeah, you can forego your DH spot by hitting your pitcher.
Yeah,
which is what they will do. That's what they did. Like when they first rolled out, like when he was at the Angels, he DH'd on the days that he pitched.
Yeah. Wait, has he never pitched for the Dodgers?
I don't think so.
I don't know if he has.
He has. No, he had to have. His first, right?
Was that last year?
He pitched in 2023.
Yeah, I don't think he's.
I think he did.
All right, I'm going to find this out.
All right, look it up. I'm going to get on to our next topic. Let's get into some of these prospects that have been all called up and see if they're worth our time or not. Obviously, for Dynasty, they're definitely worth our time, but for redraft, and we'll switch it around a little bit and give you some time to look up that thing. Let's talk about Brady House, the Nationals' top prospect. He is one of my guys. I've been on him for a while now. The Nationals' top prospect getting called up to the bigs to make his debut on Monday night. 65 games this year at AAA, slashing .304, .353, .519. He's got 13 home runs. He was the 11th overall pick in 2021 as a prep standout. It's taken us a little bit of a time to develop, obviously, as a prep star. So it's been about 4 years now, which is no surprise. I mean, you're getting drafted as your 18-year-old. He's kind of gone into a slow start, though. So, I mean, it's not like he's been hitting the ball off the cover off the ball. But the past couple of years, between 2024 and then this year, 2025, he's really kind of taken that next step, especially in the power department. 19 home runs last year across a couple levels, which is his career high. Now this year, in only 65 games, they're already up to 13 home runs. So I'm really excited to see what he can do getting into the big leagues. I mean, from all I can tell is the Nationals are going to give him full reign at third base. They don't have anyone that play third base. Paul DeYoung's on the IL, and even if he does come back, why would you even want that on your lineup? So we should see a big majority of those at bats going forward. However, he was still striking out 25% of the time at AAA. So I do have some strikeout concerns when he gets to the MLB, facing MLB pitching. You can see that kind of jump up a little bit into the 30% range. But if we can see that average and OBP still stick around, even with the strikeouts at like 270, see that power continue at the next level. Like I said, we talked about it. I can remember drafting Brady House in FYPD drafts in 2022 as a top 5 pick in some of these leagues. So I'm high on Brady House. I have him in a couple leagues. Super excited to see on what we get out of Brady House going forward here. What do you got on Ohtani first for you?
All right, House? I have. He is making his Dodgers debut.
Okay.
So the last time he pitched was August 23rd, 2023, of course. Okay. Back when he was a member of the Angels. However long he pitches, he will be allowed to remain in the game as a designated hitter afterward, via rule designed to help two-way stars like him.
Yeah, I remember he used to be able to DH and pitch, but I could have swore he had pitched for the Dodgers, but I guess I was wrong. I guess he came over in 2024.
Yeah, that's crazy. It feels like he's been with the Dodgers for like
at least 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, but no, only one.
Nice. Great. What's your thoughts on Brady House and his outlook for the rest of the year?
Like you said, the Nationals, which is gonna bring me back to my Devers take, have done a phenomenal job at trading and developing players, and we're close. I'm not going to compare them to the Oklahoma City Thunder because I don't think they're going to be winning a World Series anytime soon. But they drafted, they traded well, and currently all of those players are starting to, like James Wood is going to be a top 10 fantasy pick next year in redraft.
And CJ Abrams looks
Abrams, amazing. And now this is almost, I don't want to call it found money because he was a top pick, but like this was a guy that like we kind of forgot about.
Yeah.
And now he seems to be figuring it out. I'm interested to see. I don't know if he's in the lineup tonight. He is. He's currently 0 for 1. He flied out to right. That's fine. Okay. But yeah, definitely interested and gonna monitor that. The Nats are fun, man. The whole team's fun. Cruz has kind of left a little to be desired this year, but it happens. You get hurt. But yeah, very interested in how House does. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. If somehow he's available and you have the roster flexibility, I would highly advise adding Brady House. Like I said, he's going to get the playing time. I don't foresee any reason why he won't be starting almost every game at third base. And I don't know if do you know what order he was? What place in the batting order he was batting tonight?
Oh yeah, because I have James Woods over 3 bases, so I have it ready. He was batting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th.
Okay, so not bad.
Yeah,
it could be some RBI opportunities in the 6th hole. So we'll see how it goes. I'm definitely excited for him. Like I said, I've been on him since he was drafted as a prep star back in 2021.
Yeah.
Well, let's just keep the Boston talk going and talk about Roman Anthony. The number 1 prospect was finally called up from the last time we talked on this podcast. We kept saying it's got to be any minute now, and I want to say maybe was it like the next day or 2 days later?
It was pretty
shortly.
I think it was the Monday after. We might have recorded actually. We might have recorded and then released afterwards. Yeah. But yeah, man, he's finally here. He's here. He's beautiful. He has 1 hit. But you
Yeah.
know what? We're being positive here. I do want to bring up a couple things. Roman Anthony's dad's name. Do you know it?
No.
Okay. Roman Anthony's
Roman?
brother's name. Do you know it?
No. But
Roman Anthony's
you're,
grandpa's name. Do you know
you're
it?
setting something up here. No, I don't know.
Anthony. All three of them.
That's just that's brutal.
It's crazy. They're
Not to
the
do it to
most
the one person. You did it
Italian-looking family. They're
Yep.
literally just like this type of Italian.
Yeah.
I love every second of it. Those are the only members of Roman Anthony's family that we're going to be speaking about tonight. The only ones.
Others will not be talked about.
Others will not be spoken about. But we know.
Exactly. We know. If you know, you know.
But yeah, no. So Roman's whole family is just named Anthony, and it is so funny. But yeah, pumped.
Yeah.
He's not been doing well, but you know what? It's a new leaf. It's unfortunately now it is his team.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens, but I'm excited to just I honestly think the road trip would help just because this is going to sound dramatic, but like Fenway's scary. Like if it's your first week in the big leagues and it's 6 games at Fenway, 3 of them against the Yankees, it's just kind of a lot. So I think this West Coast trip will help. Hopefully, I don't know who the hell would do it at this point, would take out him, Mayer, Campbell, out for the night, like go out for a nice dinner, stuff like that. But what is cool, when you came to Boston, did you go to the North End or no?
What's the North End?
Okay.
I don't think so.
It's the like the Little Italy, but it's like in Boston, but it's called it's the North End. And Mayor and Anthony were just out in the North End the other night, just like getting dinner. And it's like close to my work. So I was bummed I didn't run into them. But they're enjoying the city. I love that. I just need Anthony to just like take a deep breath. I think he seems to have composure because he's been very good for he's been the number 1 prospect for probably over a year. Like he's not, and like the crowds are crazy. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot of times teams will debut their top prospects on the road for that exact reason. It can be overwhelming when you're at home and everyone's cheering your name and everyone's highly amped up. So yeah, I think the road trip will be good for him. And I'm excited to him. I have him in many redraft leagues, including TGFBI, where I desperately need him to start contributing. All right, another prospect that just got called up recently, that's Christian Moore, second baseman for the Los Angeles Angels. There's a lot of speculation. I mean, we've talked about this guy, I feel like, for the last month and a half. He on this podcast multiple times.
Yes.
He was, one of those guys that were flirting with being on the opening day roster just because the Angels like to do what the Angels do, and that just speed up their prospects. Although he did not, he went back down to AAA. But now he's gotten called back up. He made his debut this past week. He remains hitless in his first 3 games since being promoted. And I think we might have a case of the Angels doing what the Angels do and just accelerating this guy when they didn't need to. The 8th overall pick in last year's draft. He was doing pretty well at AAA before getting called up. He was slashing 350, 424, 575, 4 home runs, 18 RBIs, 3 stolen bases. So he wasn't doing bad. However, he wasn't like, oh my God, I'm batting 5 something. I need to get him to the next level. He's already got 3 strikeouts, only 1 walk in 2 games so far. But however, similar to House, he could continue to get a lot of the time. There's not a lot of people holding him or blocking him on the Los Angeles Angels. Moncada, but he's hurt with a knee injury, so you know how that goes. Moncada could be out for the rest of the year at this point. So Christian Moore, Should be rostered. If he's not rostered in your team, in your Dynasty league, definitely add him in any Dynasty league. And redraft, I'd probably take a flyer on him too. He's got a lot of pop. We'll see what he can do at this level. The Angels don't have a ton of good lineup around him. So I'm curious to see what happens with him. Again, he's already struck out 3 times in 2 games. The strikeout rate was a little bit elevated at AAA as well, so I could see it getting even higher, above 30% at the major league level. He's a little bit of a free swinger, but I'm taking a flyer on him if he's available in any of my redrafts. So I have the roster flexibility for him.
Yeah, the redraft thing is kind of tough for me. I think I would kind of just let it. I think I'm fine not adding him in a redraft, depending. Like, it depends on who you're
side. Yeah, you're not adding him in 10 team or 12 team leagues, but if you're like in a 14 or 15
I think it needs to be like 15, or if your second baseman is like dead or something something crazy.
Right.
Definitely interested to see how this works out for him, because like if the power doesn't translate, I can very, very much see him being like a Keston Herrera, or
yes,
like that's kind of my like if everything goes wrong comp, because very similar college players with the like hit tool first guys. He actually just got DFA'd by the Rockies today. Actually, Herrera.
I know.
So yeah, someone I'm fine with not adding. If he's on your dynasty team, you just spent a first-year player draft pick on him. Honestly, I would probably move him just because he seems kind of volatile for me. And I'd be fine to be wrong about him if I can just get something that I can kind of depend on a little bit more back, even if it's a little bit lesser in value.
Yeah. Again, like I said, in the deep leagues, I give him a flyer, but obviously you're not going to add him in a 10-man league. That's just crazy. But it'd be interesting to see what he does going forward here. Again, Angels love to angel things, and just guy was just drafted. I get out of college, but he was just drafted last summer and he's already in the league. I mean, you think about between Chanel, who was just drafted the same draft, wasn't it? Chanel and Moore both drafted last summer, and they've already now both.
No, the pitcher. They drafted a pitcher that they called up. Chanel was 2 years ago. Not this past one. It was the year
before. But
before.
Chanel was called up the summer after.
Yes.
Same with Neto. Neto was called up the summer right after he was drafted as well. So.
Same was Ben Joyce.
Yeah. They love to fast track these prospects, sometimes to their dismay.
Yeah.
All right. There's one more prospect we got to talk about here that got called up recently, and that's Jacob Misiorowski of the Milwaukee Brewers. The flamethrower is made his debut last week. I forgot we're recording here, but looked really sharp. 5 innings, no hit ball. Did give up 4 walks though, so that was a little alarming. But first start in the big leagues could be a little bit of the nerves on the control there. But 5 strikeouts in 5 innings and 4 walks, no hits. Very solid. He's one of those guys though that's so big and lanky. I'm wondering if he sticks in the rotation or if he ends up ultimately going to the bullpen. I think ultimately these kind of guys, we've seen it time and time again. These big, there's only so many of these guys that can excel at that kind of body type. Chris Sale's an exception, but even Chris Sale started as a reliever in the White Sox, and then ultimately went to the rotation. But I'm curious to see what happens with Misiorowski. As of right now, he's still in the rotation, but we'll see what happens with him. I think he's more destined to be a reliever. When
he's Josh Hader, Jason.
Yeah, good call.
Brewers. It's just
good call.
It is what it is, and it's fine. But last year he was like a pretty well-regarded prospect going into last season, and he kind of had the down year, and the control was a problem. So this is kind of what. Yes, he throws the ball fast. Unfortunately, is he throwing it fast in spite? Like, if he slows it down a bit, will he have a little bit more control? I don't know. Sorry. But yeah, I think he's just going to be an elite reliever, which is fine. Honestly, this is going to sound kind of like my Christian Moore take. I would trade him as soon as I can, because I think he's destined to be a reliever. It might be high end, You might be able to get some saves or holds out of him, but I think the hype right now is going to be too crazy to not kind of jump in on,
Yeah. I was trying to look up to see, what his usage was in his first start. Looks like he relied heavily on, a lot of fastball and slider combo. And sprinkled in some
He's a reliever.
curveball. So, yeah, I mean,
This
as of right
guy
now,
like a sweeper.
Yeah, he threw a slider fastball 84% of the time in his first start. So if that doesn't scream a reliever, that I don't know what else does. Fastball slider combo. It's a reliever right there, especially when he's throwing it over 100. But hey, as of right now, they're leaving him in rotation. So if you need a starting pitcher with some high strikeout upside, you can grab Misiorowski and see where it goes. And obviously, he gets moved to the bullpen. You can just drop him because he'll just be, if anything, he'll probably be a long reliever right now. They have McGill, right? That's his name. I always get Trevor and it's not Trevor McGill.
They even have there's a prospect I like, Yoho.
Yeah, yep.
Greg Yoho is like Abner
he's like
Uribe.
it's coming up Evan Williams. And they also have Abner Uribe for the 8th inning, who's been like lights out this year too. So I don't think Misiorowski would be the closer anytime soon. So if he does get moved to rotation, the bullpen, he's of no fantasy value.
Completely agree.
All right, well that's gonna do it. I'm gonna give you some time to go mop up your tears off of your desk after that episode of the Devers recap.
Yeah, there's a press conference at 8, so perfect timing.
Oh, there we go. Why don't you jump on them? We'll circle back next week.
All right, buddy. See you.
See ya.